Thank you for joining me for what I'm more or less calling my story/spoiler run through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This is your warning that from this point forward, this video and all of the videos in this series are full of spoilers and speculation for the complete story in Rebirth, so everything we're given in-game. It will be looking at ideas and elements from Remake, as well as the original Final Fantasy VII, start to finish, so including beyond where we are in the story, the whole story start to finish of OG7. It will be incorporating ideas and plot elements from the books, On the Way to a Smile, The Kids Are All Right, Tale of Two Pasts. It will probably come up once or twice discussing Advent Children, the movie, and I will give you fair warning, it is such a convoluted story, and going back through it for how many times I've watched other people play, I've watched my play, I've recorded these videos, as many times as I've gone through it, there's always new ideas and thoughts that I have while doing stuff, so you'll see little interruptions occasionally throughout the video, like this! And those are just, during the editing process, something I forgot to mention. I came in and thought of it, and so added it in After Effects. So if those are annoying, sorry, but it is what it is. So I want these to generate discussion. I want to hear your thoughts, so please join me in the comments. Tell me things that maybe I missed. If you see something you missed, let me know. If you think I'm wrong about something, please. If you think I'm going off into crazy town, if you think I'm on the right track, great, let's talk about it. Maybe discussion will raise some more ideas. Anyway, without further ado, thank you for joining me. I love this game. Hopefully you do too, so let's get into it. Okay, really fast before we talk to Priscilla and her sus friend, the dolphin. I said a little bit ago, what was, where did the mission for Yuffie come from? And it was not from Wutai, which I had wondered about, mainly because later on we are never explicitly told, but we're told that unless they completely tell us otherwise, Rufus is Viceroy Saruf from Wutai. And thus the question was always, did Rufus know that Yuffie had been sent to kill him? And I had forgotten that in here that it more or less explicitly states that the mission seems to come from the SRC side of things, from the mayor lady, gosh, I just saw her name and I forgot it already. Anyway, where she's saying, that she seems to be the one giving the mission to Yuffie, and it's because of Shinra's oppressive boot on Lower Junon here. And so it's sending a message by, hey, new president? Great, let's kill him. Because I had wondered, at one point it occurred to me, like, wait a second, was Yuffie sent by the Wutai government? And then we find out Wutai government may almost certainly is sort of taking some direction from Rufus under a nom de plume. And yeah, so it's like, okay, what the hell is going on here? Did Rufus know? Was it a setup? Yeah, I don't think it was. All right, let's go talk to Mr. Dolphin here.
Oh, hey you guys!
We talked to Yuffie. She said that you could show us a way to get up top.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Although, Yuffie's the one who found it. And according to her, that tanker's the quickest and easiest way into the city.
I assume Yuffie has ninja powers that
See
got
that?
her up
That
into
booth
the
up
upper
there is the
Junon, since she
control
didn't
room.
come on the boat as far as we know.
So we can repurpose this ship as an elevator. Someone lowers
Now,
and
maybe
sends it
she
back up,
hopped on the
along
dolphin
with
too.
the others.
Problem is, how are we supposed to get to the controls?
High voltage?
Yep, it should just say, no climbing.
So we're stuck.
Not with Mr. Dolphin. You wouldn't believe what he can do. Like when we met. See, I was out taking a swim all on my lonesome. At least I thought I was alone. But then, squeak, squeak.
I'm with
I heard
Cloud
this funny
here.
noise.
That's great and all, but we're in a hurry.
Hey!
Just saying.
We're sorry, really. but we'll make sure to come
World's
back
at
as soon as
stake.
we're
We
done.
need to be in a hurry
You
until
can
it's time
finish
for
your
us to
story
slow
then.
down and spend
How
18
does that
hours
sound?
wandering around a beach resort.
Okay, promise. Never done it before? My arm, your arm, bam!
Oh, gotcha.
Awesome!
All right, then. Now what?
Now we ask Mr. Dolphin to get you up. With his help,
Alright,
it'll
I'll
be a
meet you when
cinch.
we get up to the top of the winch.
Ah, there you are.
Let's move.
I love that you can see the weapon emplacements here. Just, you know, if Junon ever got attacked, there's a little turret here to shoot. And I imagine, honestly, I kind of get the feeling we're going to see these things come out during Sapphire weapon attack in part 3. Because, let's see. Which way is what? Alright, that's north. So the cannon's facing that way. So maybe not. I mean, well, I mean, this is pretty far back to be able to see anything. So these are much smaller. You can see more turrets down there, but I imagine we might see something like one of these come to play when the weapon attacks. Yeah, because that's pointed out towards Condor. Don't shoot the bird. Don't ever shoot the giant bird.
I can't believe we get to see the new president in person.
Yeah, and I mentioned definitions in my regular playthrough. I had to look it up to be sure what starboard versus larboard means, because the term is used a lot, but they don't ever, define it. But yeah, so starboard is looking out in the direction of a ship. So in this case, this way out of the cannon would be considered the front of this ship. And so starboard Junon would be this side, which is the looking out would be the, I'm reversed in camera here, but anyway, the right side from looking out over the prow of the ship. And what we would normally call port side would be the left, which would be over here. Originally, or in some areas, it was called larboard, which just sounded too much like starboard when you're yelling at people out on the seas, and so they found a different word for it. And I forget when I looked it up. I know there was a reason why they used the word port, but anyway, port sounds very different from starboard, so that's why larboard fell out of use, really. By the way, in case you've never had cause or opportunity to learn nautical terms, the directions and terminology for a ship, without getting too into the weeds, the front is called the bow, or it's going ahead or forward. The back of the ship is called the stern, and is called, or the aft. If you are facing the bow of the ship, the right-hand side would be the starboard side, and the left-hand side would be the port side, or larboard side, as it used to be known in some circles for a while there, as I said. The reason for this, if you may just always sort of heard that ships have funny terms and for their own things. It's a bulkhead, not a wall. It's the head, not a bathroom. That's weird stuff like that. There is a reason for most or all of them, and a lot of them carried through the centuries because they just make sense. Even in sci-fi spaceships, Star Trek still uses a lot of the nautical terms. We have admirals and captains, and things are off the starboard bow, which basically means in the direction the ship is facing, it's ahead and to the right. Pretty simple. The reason really is, if you've never really thought about it, there is no common frame of reference when you're out in the middle of the ocean or space except the ship itself. You don't necessarily know at any given moment if you're facing north, south, east, or west. If you're in one part of the ship and someone else is in another part, there is no right or left. God only knows what direction any individual person is facing. But in a common frame of reference for the ship, there's always the starboard side and the port side. There's always the bow and the stern. And everybody knows exactly what those are and has that physical frame of reference in the ship itself. And it doesn't matter if the ship suddenly turns 45 degrees from where it used to be, or another 270 degrees after that, or whatever direction the ship is facing. Starboard is always starboard, port is always port, bow, stern. Very simple. And so, given Junon's history as a nautical people, where they had a floating city at one point, if you read the World Intel, I really enjoyed it. It's very interesting. After Shinra broke it up and took over the Junon area, etc., when they constructed Junon, their giant fortress, it is described as resembling a vast battleship. Not sure I buy that part, but it looks more like a giant sphinx with a big old cannon on the front, but whatever. Ostensibly, it resembles a giant battleship, and thus the directions of Junon itself are given as starboard and then using the archaic larboard directional sign. And so I think it's an interesting way of referring to it, and it sort of draws on the lore of the area itself, which I really appreciate. So it's such a minor detail. I think if they hadn't referred to larboard Junon, I don't know that I even would have thought to dive into it and really explain it, but such it is. So evolution of language, calling it port instead of larboard. Fun stuff. Back to what we were talking about. I do also appreciate the different things that you don't really pay attention to. So, I mean, there's a whole small airstrip here that we were just looking out on with these smaller ships over here. And then you get to the slightly larger ones. I don't see any Relnicas out here. I don't think well, no, I guess is that a Relnica? It's really hard to tell from way up here. I guess you can sort of see the big belly there. But God, look at the size of the High Wind compared to it's a Relnica. Oh gosh, the huge ship that's got so many troops in it. Look at the frickin' High Wind. Oh my God. That thing is ginormous. That is going to be so much fun to wander around in when we actually get the chance. Like, I don't know what they're going to put in there, but there's going to be space to actually walk around in the High Wind. That's going to be fun, just for the novelty of it. Even if there's nothing interesting there, it's going to be cool. Like, I want to go down into the engines. I want to see, do not open this hatch. This takes you to the secret area where the propellers fall off and do all the stuff. Yeah, I am so looking forward to going in there. But anyways, I mean, like, you see this other airstrip here that looks like it might connect back to, some of this storage facility area here. And you get the feeling that there might still be more stuff back underground, probably back there. And it just gives you sort of the sense of scale of this place. So it is friggin' huge, and I love it. And like, I'm impressed. Like, you can even see into the different streets that are back here on the inside. The level of detail, even that they give you in this map, is astounding. Hello, giant cannon. I always forget just how much south it tilts. I picture it in my head as pointing like due west, because I think that was more or less the direction it pointed in OG7. But this one, when I just looked at the map there, it was
Guess things have changed.
much further
They got higher priorities.
tilted than I
Personally,
expected
think
it
that's
to
a
be.
good thing.
The city's size, on the other hand, the robed men won't be easy to find.
They're definitely not here. Let's head into town.
And nobody will question us. Look at that thing. Now this is, let's see, how much of, yeah, we still can't see it down into proper until we get into the lower, or the streets of Junon, rather. Sorry, Tifa. But when we get there, like, you can see the areas where barricades come up out of the ground as a protective measure.
Any idea what that is?
That is
The
the
high wind.
mother-frickin' high wind.
Shinra's pride and joy. The fastest, most advanced airship in the fleet.
Screw the boat. Let's take that.
Plus you got a trained crew and piloting skills we don't know about. We're sticking with the boat.
Okay, so just because I've heard it mentioned a lot in chats and such, and people playing the game who have played the original, Midgar 7th that you interact with coming up pretty soon here in Junon, I've seen people saying, oh, well, maybe they'll show up in part 3 and they'll be our crew for the high wind, and that's how we'll get them back, because, yeah, they'll be in part 3 again, and that's what it'll be, and I've seen lots of variations on that. They're forgetting this line right here, that the high wind needs a skilled crew. Midgar 7th is an infantry unit. They are not a frickin' airship crew. I'd be extremely surprised if they have anything to do with the high wind, unless they just happen to be guarding it. You do run into them, the captain and 2 of the blue-clad soldiers that you interact with in the original FF7 Junon section. You do find them again down in the underwater reactor on the submarine, and you can either fight them or take them captive, but they're guarding it. They are not the crew of the submarine. So, again, that's where I would expect to find them in part 3, is some members of the 7th, maybe, down in the submarine bay or in the underwater reactor somewhere along the lines. Something to that effect. If they're carrying that same group forward to how they appeared in OG. The only other place I would expect to run into them again, of course, would be Midgar, since they're Midgar 7th. But yeah, no. I don't honestly expect them to have anything to do with the high wind itself.
That's too bad. Would have been perfect.
Hey, beggars can't be choosers.
So I assume that, like, coming to get the high wind is eventually going to be like its own chapter practically in part 3, because that's going to be a thing. It's too important to not give us, obviously, but they can't give it to us too soon. And so I think Sid is going to spearhead coming to get the high wind at some point, is my guess. And it's going to be so cool. And I love the fact you could, like, see it just shifting in the wind. It's awesome. But yeah, it is Mako powered, like most things are these days. And Sid actually spends, after OG7, trying to make a new airship using an engine that doesn't rely on Mako power, because it's just, number one, politically, it's a bad idea. But I find the interesting thing that comes up, and it's in Barrett's story in On the Way to a Smile, is Barrett starts coming to the conclusion of, well, maybe it's okay to use a little bit of Mako, but only for the important things, and so maybe it's okay to run like the engine of the high wind to get, to facilitate trade and to help people recover. So maybe Mako isn't all bad. Maybe it's okay to use a little bit of it, which I think is an interesting develop in his character arc, because now that Shinra, the big bad evil that he hates to his core, is not destroyed, but taken down many pegs. Midgar is essentially shut down and destroyed at that point after the finale of OG7. His moral objection to using the live stream then suddenly finds a little wiggle room, because it's no longer fueled as much by his hatred of Shinra, which is a realistic way of looking at it when you really look at his motives. And even towards the end of OG7, he admits, he's like, yeah, all this about saving the planet and all this other stuff, that's a lot of talk. I'm doing it for Marlene. It's about Marlene. I love Marlene. I'm trying to take care of Marlene, etc., etc. Saving the planet is sort of the way I do that, but it's really about Marlene. And so you already see his rationale starting to evolve, or get some layers to it, rather. So I find that an interesting development in his future and his characterization after the fact.
Have you seen the end?
And so but that's why he ends up going on search for oil to help fund or help fuel Sid's engine, is to try and find an alternative to Mako power, because even he finds himself like, well, maybe some isn't so bad. What am I talking about? And Sid gives him sort of a way to help solve the energy issue without compromising his values, I guess.
No, we'll leave them be. For now. Enter.
An emissary from Wutai is here, sent by Viceroy Saruf.
Was he, though?
Oh? He introduced himself as Colonel Glenn Lodbrok.
All right.
As the other leading contender to be Cloud's father, he's got a little bit of spikiness in the hair going.
Then you thought right.
You gotta wonder what Rufus is making of this.
Let's cut to the chase, Mr. President. The Viceroy and your late father had big plans. I assume you intend to carry them out?
Correct.
Now, if the Viceroy is in fact
That's
Rufus,
good to hear. Some people just don't have the stomach for war. And this battle for the Magnus Materia demands commitment from both Wutai and Shinra.
Thank you. I'm aware. But my father is dead, which changes the equation. A new vision is required.
You always did prefer to march to the beat of your own drum. This new vision include your fairy tale promised land? You Shinras. You take and you take, and you never give back.
which is dialogue, presumably. As I've said, I have not played Before Crisis or Ever Crisis or any of the prequel sort of things to this besides Crisis Core. So Glenn and all of his backstory and why he left Shinra or split with them or whatever the heck happened, I don't know specifically. I've read a little bit of it here and there, but not enough to really fully internalize. But you Shinras, you take and you never give back, blah, blah, I think is probably pretty in keeping with Glenn's whatever happened with him and Shinra. But it's also very much a Sephiroth perspective being, coming out in a different voice here. Because this, of course, is Sephiroth Glenn. As far as we know, Glenn actually is dead. And this is just a robed man using Genova power to impersonate him. I've never been 100% certain, though, if that's what's true the whole time, or if Glenn actually did survive and is here doing this, and then Sephiroth sort of co-opts that. Because it's just really weird, because you see Glenn later on in the announcement where Saruf is supposed to appear and is a no-show. So it's not like Glenn only shows up for Rufus. So it's not just a head game for Rufus. But it's really weird for Sephiroth to be using the Genova power to impersonate him all the damn time, or on a long, ongoing basis, because Glenn here has a presence in the game. He is obviously in Wutai and doing stuff, and his coordinations with the SRC, and you see him down in the crowd, and there's all these other times where he appears, and you have to imagine that he is doing things off screen as well, which just seems really weird for Sephiroth to be doing. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying it's really strange. Having Sephiroth show up and screw with Rufus, 100%, totally in keeping with character, and obviously that is the case in at least one or two of these appearances. But I'm not 100% sold that this is Sephiroth every minute we see Lodbrok on the screen. I honestly don't know. I can't say for sure. I'm not convinced 100%. So, I do, if I remember reading correctly, that Glenn is a friend of Sephiroth's, or was in one of the prequel stories there. And so Sephiroth specifically screwing with Rufus here makes a bit of sense, because Sephiroth's not, still likes to think of he's the hero of his own story, etc. And Rufus killed, presumably, his friend. So it's perfectly in keeping with Sephiroth's character to specifically want to screw with Rufus a bit. Beyond his own plans, but to actually take some sort of revenge and messing with Rufus in particular. As a quick interjection here, I tried looking up a little bit more on what the relationship between Glenn and Sephiroth was. The problem is, anytime you start Google the words Glenn, Lodbrok, and Sephiroth in the same search, you get this scene, or variations of this. It's even when you try to mention the game specifically for First Soldier or Ever Crisis, most things still come back to something like this. It seems like Glenn befriended a young Sephiroth, near as I can tell. It appears maybe they fight at some point in Ever Crisis, or in the original story, the game that it's using. One of these days I will play Ever Crisis. That is a goal of mine, especially because I can't find a good English language voiced version of it, even just someone playing the game reading out the voices. I haven't found a good one yet, so I may just do my own, and you may find that in the channel here someday soon. Yeah, so I still don't 100% know the relationship between Glenn and Sephiroth. I will say still that the Glenn wearing the cloak, if it was actually Glenn, the robe is a weird affectation. And felt at first like it was a weird red herring, because nobody else in the entire world wears the black robes, except the black robe guys that are the degrading soldiers and the Sephiroth clones and whatever you want to call them. Glenn Lodbrok is the only other person in this frickin' game who wears one, except when Yuffie's disguising herself. And so the fact that he's wearing one that's really close to it, but doesn't have the designs on the back, for instance. It's got the hood, but it's very close but different. It was a weird choice to me, and I don't know if it was intended to throw us off and then only reveal later. No, it actually is sort of what you thought. That herring wasn't as red as you thought it was. It still feels strange to me. I don't know why Rufus shot Glenn, except that Glenn had splintered off and moved away from Shinra at some point there, but I don't know why that specifically would have prompted Rufus to shoot him. Again, haven't played the game. And again, any Google searches around that just come back to the final scene between these two in Rebirth. But yeah, so I need more information on that. And if you know some more, please feel free to drop some info in the comments. I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out on their relationship. Glenn and Rufus is still one of the largest mysteries to me, and what's going on between them and Wutai and Saruf and all the things that come around it. And I know that's going to be a major focus in part 3. So they're deliberately not telling us most of it. But yeah, so I just throwing that in here, that I'm not sure I nailed relationship well enough by just saying they were friends and Sephiroth screwing with Rufus, because Rufus shot his friend. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. This is FF7, so complicated is pretty much the rule of the day. So, anyway.
Left to you, this world would end up an empty husk. But war can put things right. Beget anger, desolation, hatred, and in its wake, new unity. A people rejuvenated, and a planet once more made whole.
Driving the negative emotions. And I will revisit this theme as we go, especially as it pertains to Cloud and Sephiroth. But driving the negative emotions is 100% something that Sephiroth is focusing on in this story. And doing it on a broader scale basis by sparking and continuing a war between Shinra and Wutai, because war breeds chaos. It breeds the darker side of human nature. It breeds the suffering that then moves on and causes more suffering and more darkness in people. There is, in Advent Children, we see the geostigmata, and it is like this black squelchiness that comes out of people once they get infected with it, and eventually they die. And in the stories, they do a much better job of explaining how people come down with it. It's in the movie, it's sort of explained as it is a taint from Sephiroth that went out, that was in the life stream, that then started infecting people. And the mechanism of which isn't really gone into, I don't think, unless it's in the sort of expanded Advent Children, which I have not seen all of. I've seen most of it, but I didn't catch all of it during a viewing. But in the books, they do a much better job of sort of spelling it out, is that when people are at their lowest, when they are in despair, when they are fearing for their own life, when they're just psychologically at their bottom, they get infected. And so there may be a component of the water and how it gets into them, but people who are positive and active and still doing okay in life, drinking the same water, don't seem to get it. But the people who are at that brink of death or despair, they get infected with the geostigmata, and that's how it gets into them and infects them and then starts spreading, and eventually, then they die. And so this idea of spreading this negativity, we haven't even gotten to the point of Sephiroth dying and dispersing in the life stream like he does at the end of OG7, but this is perfectly in that same theme of him already trying to spread this darkness. And we see in the end of this game where he's like, all the dark things, all these negative emotions come together in this rebirth. The negative emotions is part of his plan of the rebirth, or the reunion, with Genova and the worlds combining and all this other stuff. It is that negativity that he's looking for. And when we get to that scene, I'll remind of this scene. And that driving and increasing the negativity in the world is absolutely part of Sephiroth's plan here. It has to be the way they're telling this story. And this is a major, major component of it right here.
What we're doing's for the greater good. Just gotta know when to ease off the gas.
Now listen.
His plan to ease off the gas is never.
You started
Or
this.
once he drops a meteor on the planet.
No more playing the idle air. You have obligations to fulfill. Let's give the people what they deserve. Oh, right. Before I leave, a message from the Viceroy.
Which...
Congratulations on your inauguration, Mr. President. Shinra has a bright future.
Which, presumably, he already knows. Whether that's a real Glen or a Sephi Glen, already knows if that Rufus is supposed to be Saruf, which makes that incredibly mocking and sarcastic, all bundled up into one there. It's quite an incredible way of delivering that line to his face, really. I'm still kind of curious about some of the dynamics going on in the background here, and we're gonna get more, I think, when we get to Wutai in part 3. Because they're talking about how Saruf, Rufus, and President Shinra had plans. President Shinra at some point found out that Rufus was, if I remember correctly, and this is in prequel games, I think it's part of it, Rufus was funding Avalanche. Not out of concern or support of their goals, but just as a way to stick it to his dad. And we see the daddy issues playing out across this game. And from what I understand, President Shinra found out about it, sort of banished him to Junon, and then that wasn't too long before Remake happened. President Shinra died. Rufus, the Turks then go run down and grab Rufus to bring him back and to get him in running things as fast as possible. Sometime in the space before that, presumably then, Rufus was also dealing as Saruf and working on things with Wutai. The question then becomes, did President Shinra also know that Rufus was playing the Wutai side of things and was posing as Saruf and running things over there as another way of sticking it to his dad? Or did he only find out about the Avalanche thing? Because it sounds like if he didn't know, he was making plans with Saruf about this thing going on, this to foster the war between Shinra and Wutai. What the goal of that is, not sure what that would have been, unless he was planning on then just pulling it out from under his dad. We need more info on that, really, before we can do a whole lot of speculation there, I think, because we don't know 100% confirmation that Rufus is Saruf. We don't know what his motives were beyond sticking it to dad, and we don't know how that played out. And they can't not give that to us in part 3. That is something they have played up in this story. And so when we get to Wutai, I think Wutai is going to be a couple of chapters worth by the time we're all said and done. It's going to take quite a while to delve into everything and play out that full story there. Or that it's just be a one big damn chapter and then maybe some side stuff that helps flesh it out a bit. But anyway. Okay, let's see here. I think that's it until we get to the 7th.
So, Cloud, what can you tell us about Junon?
It's a key military outpost with its own offshore reactor. A critical line of defense against any seaborne assault. When needed, it can transform into an armed fortress. Its strategic location, along with its air and seaports, make it second only to Midgar as the company's most vital city.
Huh. Neat.
Read straight out of the Shinra
Restaurants? Sight
description
to
and playbook of their
Maybe?
holdings.
see? Right. You're not the touristy type.
Hey, just to be clear, you do realize we're not here.
I don't know that Cloud was ever in Junon.
Of course I do. Hey, look, what's that about?
Listen up. Midgard,
He might have been here on a mission in Crisis Core with Zack.
commendation. Let's show
Yeah,
them
he-
how a real
well-
drill team does it and make our city proud.
Was he?
Troopers, you're all off duty until
Cripes,
the
I
parade
forget. He
begins.
might have been during
Use this time wisely.
when Hollander was escaping at one point.
Now we're talking. Huh. They're actually kind of cool. Well, ready to suit up? Yep.
I wonder how much of Cloud's memory
Whoa there. 3 steps back,
encompasses
if you
his time as a plane trooper. I They got their boots off really fast there. Because here, when he picks up the box, which is somewhere... Okay. Now... Been a while. So he remembers, at some level, wearing this outfit. If I remember correctly, you join the military and you take the test, and if you place where they want you to and as expected, etc., if you have the traits they're looking for, then you can go into the soldier program. Cloud didn't have the mental stability, the mental toughness, I think, to make it, and so that he didn't get put into the soldier program, so he was just a plain trooper. Now this version of Cloud, though, I have to wonder how much of time he spent in this kind of uniform as a trooper before he thinks he became a soldier. I don't know. I want to look up. I need to look up how long. You know, when did Zack sign up? When did Zack join? When did Zack become a soldier? You know, third class, second class, etc. Like, at what point did Zack transition? Because Cloud may have in his head given himself that same sort of timeline, and so I'm kind of curious how that would actually play out. So I took some notes. So it was 1997 that Zack left Gungaga to go to Midgar and join soldier, to become a hero. It doesn't list specifically more than that. I don't know that we know exactly what time of year it was, just sometime in 97. 3 years later, in 2007, or 0, depending on which timeline numbering you're looking at, in October, Zack is a second-class soldier, and he is vying for first class because that is where Crisis Core opens, with the Chapter 1 going into Wutai, and so where they tell him, hey, how you do on this one will matter on our consideration for you for first class. So sometime in something probably less than 3 years, or just around 3 years, maybe slightly longer, Zack moved from getting to Midgar, well, we don't know how long it took him, to enlisting, getting tested, and either being a trooper for a while or else going straight into the soldier program as a bottom rung soldier, and over the course of those same 3 years made it to second class and in consideration for first class. In the spring of 2000, so that same year, but earlier in the year, is when Cloud left for Midgar from Nibelheim. Again, don't know how long it took him to get there, but April of the next year, so Aught 1, Zack was promoted to first class, and fall of Aught 1 is when Zack and Cloud first met on a mission to Modeoheim up in the frozen area up north. So at that point, Zack had been in soldier or in Shinra military / soldier for somewhere around 4 years, and Cloud had only been in there for 1 year-ish, year and a half maybe. Yeah, because he left home in the spring, I think, and Modeoheim happened in the fall, and then October of Aught 2 was Nibelheim. So we all know Cloud had been gone for 2 years at that point, because he's always said, it's been 2 years since he was home, etc. So the timeline there matches perfectly fine. So it's not exactly the same time frame as how long Zack would have taken, because Cloud is at that point essentially claiming to remember that he went from nothing to first class soldier in 2 years, which is faster than Zack, and it kind of felt like Zack only made first class as fast as he did, maybe because of Genesis defecting and leaving with the majority of the first class and second and third class even soldiers. And so there was this power vacuum essentially within Soldier. And so here's Zack, who is an outstanding individual. He's positive, he's popular, etc., etc. Sure, he's good enough. Let's repopulate our first class ranks. Give it to him. He might have been slightly fast tracked, but not by a whole lot. Because as I said, he was under consideration for first class at that point already. So yeah, so his timeline was probably about right. Zack was an outstanding individual, obviously. You don't get to be first class without being that. But you can kind of assume that anybody who makes it to first class is outstanding, and therefore his timeline may be about normalish, give or take half a year-ish, who knows? So that would put Zack at 4 years. So Cloud is basically saying he made first class in half the time. I call shenanigans.
It's the damnedest thing. But I don't recall seeing the three of you at practice.
And I would know, because you're the only three people whose face I could actually see under those helmets.
Sorry, sir.
Everyone else is covered up to here.
Do you have any idea how important today's ceremony is?
Like seriously, if this has been what the helmets looked like when we were back in Nibelheim, Tifa would have recognized Cloud in a heartbeat.
And if you show her anything less than perfection, I'll feed your ass to a behemoth!
Now what?
Just follow my lead. I still remember the basics.
I'm having second thoughts, you guys.
What the hell are you doing over there? The commander is waiting!
Sir!
Precise, clean movements. Impeccable timing. I must say, you've impressed me.
He'd serve as a sterling example to the others, ma'am.
Congratulations! You are hereby promoted to Parade Captain of Midgar's 7th Infantry.
I want to know at what point she knows who he is.
You will be our model trooper.
'Cause
the one to march at the
Cloud's
head
got the
of our
Mako
drill
eyes.
team. Which
And
means
later
that
on
all
in the when you
performances
interact with them and you do
satisfactory
the
or otherwise, is
fighting
now
the
your responsibility.
what's his face, the giant monster centaur thing. Hellraiser, Hellrider, something like that. She knows who they are. And so I kind of wonder, is that something they found out after the fact? I would imagine so. But like right there, that look, she's looking at him, and the whole Mako eyes for a soldier, people in Shinra would know that. In the Shinra military, would know about the Mako eyes. And so I have to wonder if she recognized it and just shut up about it, got through this, and then like, alright, screw it.
You and the team will report to Starboard.
And then, you know, the members of Midgar 7th that accompany Cloud running around distracting everyone just didn't get the memo because she hadn't told them, okay, hey guys, by the way, yeah, it's not really clear at what point she knows, but that look she gives him makes me think that she already knows that he's a soldier and that there's something going on, and she's just sort of using him to further the goals of the 7th here, which is fine with me, but yeah, I just kind of wonder. Anyway, there's not really anything to talk about here. We go out, we find members of the 7th. We get to see Barrett in his spiffy sailor outfit.
The parade one. But the
And
presidential
we get
That's
through.
how these things
So
go.
I think I'll pick up
The president himself gives
at the
word.
point where we're talking to
That's
Rufus.
some plan. I mean, it's risky, but...
Oh, I forgot the little bit here that I wanted to mention. Number one, like you can see here a break in the street where presumably, I mean, normally this would be either, number one, something in the real world where this just sort of allows for expansion and contraction from heat to, you know, where a bridge joins and that sort of thing. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, though, because this seems a little more militant in this general area. So I kind of wonder about this seam. What's going to break up? Because it's everywhere here. It's not a track for something to run on. And it cuts between buildings. Because, like, there's nowhere for it to go. There's nowhere for this to move, because this one's over here. And they're all nice and tight seams here. So there's no way to... Yes, it's not like it could, you know, pull apart, because they're all lined up, and so I'm not really sure where things are going to go here. But if I mentioned earlier, you know, that it transforms into a military fort, and let's see, where do we see? I know I saw him here on the previous visit. I was like, here, these could be gun placements or something that pop up out of the ground pretty easily. Could be just decoration, hard to tell, but you know, here there's just what looks to be an elevator system to raise something up. Come up out of the ground there. I think it's here, maybe where I saw them. Yeah, so right here, these things are going to come out of the ground when Junon transforms, when Sapphire Weapon attacks. And these come up and look like it's hard to see directly. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be slotted here and maybe rise up and connect with those things up top. Yeah, they'll slide up and go into those things to hold in place, I imagine. Which is great that that design piece is already there and in place, because that's pretty obvious that that's where that's going to go. And if we can get an angle here, yeah, that's dead. That lines up dead on. That's definitely what's going to happen there. Let's see if there's anything else we can see in the defense of this place. I don't think there's anything up front here. So it depends on if there's anything that's going to pop out of some of these things in the ground. So weapon emplacements. In OG, we see just troopers with rocket launchers and stuff lining in front of the walls. Huh. But yeah, I could easily see something coming up out of the ground on these things. And where these are coming up out of the ground, it could just be decoration, you know, as part of the support pillar coming up underneath it there. But that could also be where some weapons are going to come up. Or ammunition, or even, you know, troopers coming up out of the ground and running forward out of here. Wouldn't surprise me if it was ammunition to feed and reload people out here. Can't really see anything down there. But yeah, I mean, this place is already so built up and detailed, planning ahead for what we're going to get in part 3, which, oh my god, that is going to look amazing. And again, I still think that the Sapphire weapon we see in 3 is going to have, on his shoulder, is going to have a big old scar. Because I think the weapons that we run into under Gongaga and that we see in this story are going to evolve into the weapons we get later on. And I will mention that every time the weapons come up, probably.
It's bigger than big. It's humongous.
Oh, hey, look, just says Highwind right there.
We haven't used it in years. Not since the war.
An instrument of death.
Okay, I don't think there's anything really to be gained and to look at specifically out here. If I see anything, I'll pop back in. Otherwise, I'll pick up, like I said, at the Rufus conversation. Okay. Almost got above 100,000 on that, the parade minigame on, like, the most ridiculously easy version you could get, I think. I don't know, I just found the first 5 troopers I could find and ran with it. I wonder who the cameraman is getting that angle on them.
Around the clock. They remain unaware.
Leave them to me. I want you and your people tracking the roads.
Understood. We're back on the clock. I trust you know the mission by now.
Okay.
My friends, allow me to congratulate you on a stirring performance. You've done your company proud. Your passion and patriotism is beyond question, and I know our president can't wait to thank you all. Of course, some among you are deserving of special praise. For our first award, we will recognize the division whose exemplary display eclipsed all others. The prize for outstanding performance goes to...
Mobile
Midgard's
Mobile unit.
Mobile Unit.
Which is the better cutscene here anyway, to be honest, because of Roche. Like, that's enough right there to be awesome. But then you also get this with him and Heidegger. Come on.
Commendations with the
Practiced.
Yeah, Commendation's the one that's rigged. Come on. Again, this is the second time in 2 games Heidegger's had a motorcycle come that close to his face, you know? I wonder if we're going to go 3 for 3 in part 3.
Next, we have the President's Commendation. If you would do the honors, sir.
Okay, here we go.
The late president, my father, single-handedly turned a
Interesting.
small arms manufacturer.
Seeing people's
into the
reactions
greatest
to this
company the
speech,
world has ever seen.
like, it's a
And
good
transformed
speech.
all
If you
of
didn't know
us
he was
into a miracle of
a villain, you know, an
So
antagonist,
I invite you to join me in a moment of
that's a
silence
damn good speech.
for a great man gone too soon.
And as a piece of propaganda, it's fantastic.
We live in challenging times. Some may feel that I am too young, too inexperienced to lead us.
Too
But
devoted
them
to my
and to
white
you all,
suits.
I say this: the Shinra Electric Power Company will endure. The challenges we face can be overcome if we summon our courage and cut ties with the past. Yesterday
Of
is
the
behind
slow-mo
us.
people in the background
We
jumping
must
up and
look
down.
Instead to the promise of tomorrow, for today is a new day, and the first of a long, arduous journey, which we must take together. Follow me, and we will reach our promised land. This I do solemnly swear before you all, as president of the Shinra Electric Power Company. My friends, place your trust in me, and together will we achieve our dream of a better world.
So I've looked at a lot of Shinra Troopers before and redoing this again. Not one single trooper has their eyes
I have a
visible under their
commendation
helmet.
to present.
They're all like that. Literally the only 3 helmets in the game, 4 helmets counting the one
The
Cloud
award
started
goes
with,
to
are the 4 that you wear, which is just freaking weird.
Midgar's
Seriously.
7th Infantry.
Like, it would be less weird if they just dropped the eyes on it. We would still know who we are. I don't know why they can't just do that. Okay, the victory fanfare. I don't think I've mentioned it in this story playthrough. My headcanon is that that fanfare is part of the Stamp show. Whatever propaganda they build up around Stamp, because it's music that's played in the game. It's music that Barrett hums to himself, that Yuffie hums to herself when they win things. So there's no explanation for it in the game. There's no explanation for it anywhere in the lore as far as I could tell. But my headcanon is that in this world, that victory fanfare comes from the Stamp show, which is why everybody knows it and everybody sings it, because everybody watched the frickin' Stamp show. Like, it's even people's, like, ringtone on their phone in various FF7 media. So I think it comes from the Stamp show, and there would have to be specific in-game lore for me to stop believing that.
To accept this award on behalf of the team, 3 of the best will now join me. Come on up.
I wonder if the commander and, you know, her immediate subordinate were a little jealous of this. Or like, wait a second, that's my frickin' unit. I know we promoted the captain, but who are these 2 schmucks next to him? We didn't promote them.
Your performance today was nothing short of incredible. Midgar's 7th Infantry is, without a doubt, the pride of our people. Congratulations.
Again, exactly what you'd expect him to say. The perfect speech and presentation of the award. They wrote this very well.
I have a few private words to say to these troopers. Cut the feed.
Now, keep in mind here the theory that I'm perfectly fine with, that Rufus at this point might know that Cloud is his half-brother. Assuming that's true in the first place.
That ain't right. Excuse me. Need to get through.
But he clearly knows going into this.
Over there.
Because he specifically mentions the file and everything else. Rufus knows Cloud isn't everything he's presenting as. I can't say pretending to be, because we don't know exactly how much Cloud is doing on purpose.
Talk to the rank and file. Why not take off your helmet? Cloud Strife. That was a first-class performance.
See?
One worthy of a soldier.
But again, Rufus knows he's not. Which is needling without giving anything away. Which is, again, just frickin' brilliant. I love it.
Stand down.
But, sir...
You are a fascinating individual, Cloud Strife. Your file was as gripping as it was enlightening.
See?
Which is why I have a proposition for you. At present, Midgar requires my full and undivided attention. The city is Shinra's beating heart. Its devastation is a humiliation, and the world must see us rebuild. To that end, I need to refocus my efforts and push certain duties to one side.
Get to the point.
My father left me a mountain of unfinished tasks, like the recapture of a fugitive of ancient descent, the recovery of a stolen lab specimen, and of course the arrest and execution of Avalanche. None of which, frankly, are of any interest to me whatsoever. I'd gladly wash my hands of it all.
I wonder how much of this would have gone through. Like, how much of this could we be expected to believe, if you will, if Yuffie hadn't made the attempt? Because it looks like they're in agreement on their deal. I think they both know that it's not a permanent thing. I don't think Cloud and company, obviously, they would never really trust or fully trust Rufus. And I think Rufus would probably go into it thinking, if they agree to this, they know that I know that it's not going to last. And I know that they know. That whole chain of thought. But I think they could come to... I think without Yuffie, they may have come to a mutual... not necessarily respect, but a mutual understanding of a ceasefire for a while. And... which isn't entirely unlike what happens, because Shinra, with the exception of Hojo, and in, Costa del Sol, Shinra mostly stops being a major issue for a little while here. We go through Costa del Sol and Hojo, which Hojo is always his own freaking thing. There's nothing really on the Shinra 8 specifically Shinra, related as an antagonist. Again, it's really, if anything, Hojo and his specimen work, if depending on whether he knew those things were going to be there or not. You get to Costa del Sol, Hojo. We get out into the Corel region. Nothing there. You start going up Mount Corel. Really, I think it's just because you run into Elena and Rude, and they drop the giant helicopter thing at you, and it's sort of let's stop and have a chit-chat. You'd messed with us before. I happen to have a giant mech here. Y'all go play. And, Elena and Rude nope out of there so you can fight it. Then you go through the mines. No Shinra there. You could get down to Gingaga. You're still not facing Shinra for quite a ways here. So there is almost an effective ceasefire, even though you don't make this agreement with him. But again, on the theory that Cloud's dad is President Shinra, that information could be in his file. So that could be part of what Rufus is referring to when he says your file was enlightening. Obviously they would have the information that says Cloud was just a rank and file soldier. He was sent on the Nibelheim mission. His file might include information about Hojo's testing on him. We don't know. But it certainly includes his military record with Shinra, and that it does not include him becoming a soldier. There's only so many first-class soldiers, and most of the first-class soldiers left and or were killed or defected or all sorts of other whatever verbs that go along with the story during Crisis Core. There's not really an indication of how much they beefed up their ranks after that, because Crisis Core, what you know of, stops at the Nibelheim incident. After that, you don't know what's going on within Shinra. Zack and Cloud are being experimented on for like 4 years. They take another year to get to Benora, fight Genesis, get back to Midgar, etc. And so if there's a good 5-year gap there where Zack and you and Cloud and everything else have no idea really what the status of troopers and recruitment is within Shinra. But effectively, the first-class soldiers, there really weren't anymore for a while there. And so, and even the second class were largely depopulated. A huge chunk of them left, and then a third class as well. And then the ones that didn't leave, obviously, then there were fighting against them when they came back to, under Genesis to fight Shinra. That took its toll on the soldier ranks as well, somewhere in there. So anyway, but it's not like they would have lost track of who is this first class soldier Cloud. Which, when Cloud first meets Reno, he's like, "Oh, it's first class." Reno's reaction is to laugh in his face, and to sort of mock him about it after that, even if Cloud did prove that he was as good as. But yeah, so I want to know, we don't get the explanation here. I would love to know in other media or in part 3 exactly what Rufus knows about Cloud at this point and what's in his file. And I hope we get some more clear indications of that in future storytelling.
So what? You're gonna let us go? Just like that?
Yes. Provided you keep your distance from Midgar, that is. No more stirring the proverbial pot.
At this point,
And the
Rufus
same goes
is...
for me? But why?
seems mostly okay with not pursuing the Promised Land. That changes later, obviously.
Because I have a new vision for Shinra.
So we go free. And you get?
Sephiroth, dead. He's an unsavory relic of our past, and I want him gone. But in our current state, Shinra lacks the resources to get the job done. So I turn to you.
It's a deal.
And I guess from Rufus's perspective, it's doesn't really hurt him to leave them alone and take their shot at Sephiroth. If they take him down, great. If they don't, they might weaken him.
Don't you?
Divert his attention.
According
So,
to Hojo, they're connected to
again,
Sephiroth.
Rufus strikes me as an extremely
Shadows
cold
of
and
the North,
efficient
I believe
type.
they call them. Follow them and you'll find him.
Shadows of the Man, of course, they are all not Sephiroth clones, but they have the Genova cells injected in them that allow Sephiroth and Genova to
Seems like a good
transform
plan.
and take control, if you will, and enact his will. So, alright, do a quick assassination attempt here.
Look, up there.
Oh no. Don't do it now.
All right, Shinra. Time to pay. Gotcha.
Stop! Oh, get down! Oh, get over here!
So that's your game.
It wasn't us.
Spare me. You had your chance.
Sir, please!
Interesting that he doesn't say, shoot him.
Get away!
I guess that might have created a bit of confusion right there, and the
Yuffie,
focus was to
that
get
was her,
Rufus out of
right?
there.
Yep.
What do we do?
Get the hell out of here.
Hey! What happened to Rufus?
Long gone.
Shit. So what now?
I saw one of the robed men. He was headed for the port.
Let's follow him.
Place is on alert. Are you sure about that?
We've still got the uniforms. Go on without me. I'll take care of the 7th Infantry. Throw him off the scent.
Alone? You sure?
Trust me, it's easier this way.
Captain!
Get going.
That's not sus at all as we walk up to you talking to a lab rat dog with a flaming tail and a sailor who run off.
Just received new intel. The suspect is en route to Larboard Junon. I'm to convey this information to all nearby units. Go join the search. I'll catch up.
If I may, sir. We've heard rumors that there are others in league with the terrorists. Conspirators in stolen uniforms.
Imagine that.
For your own safety, sir, allow us to accompany you. Midgar's 7th Infantry never leaves a man behind.
Right.
If the enemy is among us, other units are a potential threat, and we must treat them as such.
Good point.
But you can trust us, sir. Like we trust you.
We'll alert all units from here to the port elevator. When that's done, we'll regroup with the rest in Larboard Junon. Got it?
Yes, sir!
Yeah, so again, where's us? Yeah, there we are. So we're way over here on the far side of the starboard Junon. And so that's the whole goal, is to say, well, they're over here on larboard Junon, which is, you know, the port side, larboard side. So alright, nothing really interesting here, so pick it up back when we get to Roche, just for the fun of talking to him. So, see you in a second. Let's be honest, Roche is just fun.
To have told me you wanted to join the parade, my friend.
It's sad, but it makes perfect sense, his ultimate fate in this.
Love to have you.
Because it fits his character. But,
oh dear.
You still hate to see it.
My quarry has cast you aside.
I think ultimately, Roche, his character arc, my guess would be the reason they did it the way they did was because knowing someone inside one of the Black Robes makes it that much harder to see. It makes the emotional impact and the knowledge of what's going on with the Black Robes that much more impactful. I mean, we know Broden from Calm the Innkeeper, and we see him show up after Roche's transformation, even at the end of that chapter, whenever you decide to do the proto relics in the Nibelheim region, anyway. But those don't appear until after Roche has already undergone his transformation. So that's optional. You don't have to do those. You don't have to know anybody inside the Black Robes if you don't do those proto relics before advancing towards the end of the story. So having Roche go through it, he's the only other person you know of in the soldier program that is alive and is a member of the story. And his character arc makes sense that he would do this in an attempt to advance himself, to keep up with Cloud or beat him potentially. You know, as much as my friend, there's still the rivalry. He wants to beat Cloud. As amicable as he is, he's still crazy pants, and that is still, he wants to beat Cloud. And so it makes perfect sense for his character, but it just makes it hit that much harder. If you just saw Joe Schmo, the Black Robe guy, standing there going, Genova, and then start freaking out on the helicopter with Hojo and Rufus, for instance, or any other scene where you know it's Roche that's there. If that was just some generic Black Robe guy, you'd be like, oh, it's one of those guys. Okay, no big deal. But the number of people I saw go through who legitimately, and with good reason, like Roche, like I do, seeing his fate and watching their faces just go, oh, damn, oh, no. And just the emotional impact on their face showed right there why it had to be Roche. Nobody else could have done that. Even if it had been Broden, you see him at the beginning, you see him after his transformation towards the end. You barely know this guy, no matter what. You know, I mean, you feel bad for him as a human being, but Roche is someone who's been with you since the previous game even, and he's got a connection to Cloud. So from a plot standpoint, it's brilliant. From an emotional connection and impact, brilliant. As much as I was like, oh man, that's too bad. I wanted to see more from Roche. I want more. We still may get more from Roche, technically. I don't know if it's possible to reverse these effects. If it's going to happen to anybody, it's going to happen to Roche. Or Roche is going to be a final step in showing us something else that happens to the Black Robes at the end. Because he's still alive. He's in bad shape, but he's still alive at the end of the story. So I have a feeling we have not seen the end of Roche. I'm also not convinced we're going to like what happens to him next, one way or the other. But anyway.
How tragic.
It's like, oh, darn, Aerith's not with you. I'm supposed to be catching her. Gosh, darn. Oh, well, let's fight. With a brass section.
Fans of yours?
Fans of ours! I forgot they actually said that.
You and I are living legends.
I got this.
Sir.
Both with amazing speed and fighting skills and fabulous hair.
Isn't it exciting? The two of us together again at long last. Picture it. A duel to end all duels.
And yet it's not yet.
Fighting or what?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have to set the stage. First, the music! Let's not forget the lights!
Alright, I gotta get into this fight. I'll see you in a minute.
Actors, to your marks! Come, unleash your passion. Succumb to your instincts. Let us revel in a turbocharged tryst!
I do love good alliteration.
I see you've still got it.
There we go. Fun fight.
But our dance has only just begun. For I refuse to be unstaged a second time, my friend!
I think that qualifies as upstaging your Roche. Poor tire.
I swear, you get better, stronger, and faster.
See, so here again, he sees Cloud getting better. He wants to get better. He needs that edge. You know, it's getting Hojo to improve him. It's really sort of that you know, the equivalent of, well, I can't keep up with the best, so maybe I'll try some steroids or something. Like it's that same sort of mentality of driving to be the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you your champion.
Even for a congenial competition, I guess. I just wonder what this room is normally used for. Or really, because I mean, it's just a battle arena.
I must say, you have proven yourself as a capable leader of men. Then again, I expected nothing less than the best.
Yeah!
As a leader of my own band of brothers,
I wonder what happens. Like, I thought about it and just didn't even really think to honestly do it. I just can't bring myself to. What happens if you lose all of Midgar's 7th? I think your reward is less if you lose someone. But I don't know what happens if you lose, like, 4 of them or all 5 of them. If you even can lose all 5.
Yonder elevator will take you down.
I assume your reward would completely suck from whatever you got here, but also, like the parting scene at the dock. I wonder if anybody's actually deliberately or just cuz done that badly that they lost most or all of the 7th there. I wonder what it would look like right here if... Can you, like, maybe the last guy here you can't lose? The one who speaks and is in the middle and is...
You guys head Lodbrok without me.
The only one with lines?
Sir, I have to ask.
Oh.
Did my brothers give their lives for nothing? Are you a traitor?
A jackass.
That we know, sir. What I wanted to ask is, why you keep trying to shake us?
Hey, seriously, I wonder if the dialogue would be different if he was the last survivor? If you actually managed to lose all 5, would Cloud turn around and be looking back and be like, damn,
For what it's worth, I want you to know. I'm sorry.
No need to take the joke that far, Captain. We know the culprit's a young woman, just lightening the mood. But we get it. You clearly have things to do. Things you can't divulge to us. We're sorry that we didn't see it sooner, sir. Sorry, sir!
It's okay. At ease.
The fact is, we would have never won that commendation if you hadn't brought us all together. I might be out of line for saying this since we only just met, but...
And you've never been a part of the 7th until literally like an hour ago.
And we hope you feel the same.
You're not out of line. It's been an honor, Trooper. But you're right. It's time you guys went your way, and I went mine.
You okay?
Yeah.
Great. Now then. Let's not keep our friends waiting. We better get in line.
All right, next.
They're screening passengers.
And just letting the Black Robe people in.
What now?
Because they didn't stop that guy. He was in line.
Try the back door.
I swear, if they canceled my trip...
At this point, they're all just kind of standing around and not really letting him up there. Sorry, Earth.
They caught whoever was mistrusting you.
Can we please find him already?
Yeah, and I know it's not him. This guy sounds so much like Liam Neeson.
Can I help you?
Yeah,
We're the winners of the President's Commendation. As a reward, we got a trip to Costa del Sol. The Commander-in-Chief...
Aerith is so much better at lying than Cloud is.
First time hearing of this.
Well, the President's a busy man.
Those guys with you too?
Where'd they come from?
Captain, sorry, but you're needed on deck. The fight's broken out.
Looks like we're in for another fun crossing. Got space in second class. Be sure to mind your P's and Q's, huh? A lot of bigwigs on board. As for you, back to work.
Aye, sir.
Poor Barrett.
Oh, and your dog stays in the hold.
Got it.
Red, chill.
Just play along.
And again, the Black Robes just sort of
All clear.
wander on in. Thankfully, we leave Kyrie behind.
Stop the ship! I have a ticket! Come on, man! You can't leave without me!
I never have to see her again in this game.
I'm a
Except for that brief cutscene in Zack's world.
thing around! Worst day ever.
Okay. So, yeah. So, thank you for joining me so far. Hopefully you're enjoying these story mode walkthrough and the discussion and theory crafting of the story. I may not be much of a theory crafter in playing the game necessarily, but hopefully coming through the theory of the story is fun and insightful. I'm trying to bring together as many of the different threads as I can from all the different media and the stories, and as I said originally, the future knowledge of how this game goes, etc. So please leave some comments on what you saw here, if there was anything in particular that stood out to you, or missed something maybe you noticed that I missed, whether it was in this video or at least somewhere in these chapters that I might have missed somewhere. Even if I cut that part out of this video, whatever the relevant portion is. So, but please leave a like. If you're not already a subscriber, click that button, and so you'll get notifications for future videos and content. And hope everybody's having a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye.